When Montana's railroad billionaire desperately needs a wife to secure a government contract, he orders a sophisticated bride from New York's high society. But the elegant woman who steps off his private train is running for her life after witnessing a senator's assassination. And the killer she's fleeing is the billionaire's own brother. She came seeking sanctuary, he offered protection, but neither expected the assassins tracking her to be his own blood. This is a story where family loyalties derail, where love runs on dangerous tracks, and where the ultimate destination is either death or redemption. Hit that like button and subscribe to see if love can survive when the killer in the shadows shares your last name. Billionaire's Eastern Bride witnessed murder by his own brother. So assassins hunt them. James Blackwood stood in the observation car of his private train, watching the Montana mountains rise like iron teeth against the dying light. At 42, he owned 3,000 miles of railroad track, a cattle ranch larger than some eastern states, and enough political influence to redirect entire congressional votes. But the government contract for the Pacific Northern Extension, $10 billion to connect Canada to Mexico through America's heartland, required something he didn't have: the appearance of stability that only marriage could provide. The telegram in his pocket was brief and desperate, exactly what he'd wanted. Miss Catherine Worthington, 26, formerly of New York society, seeking immediate marriage and relocation, can arrive within the week, no questions asked. The no questions asked part had intrigued him. James had secrets of his own, and a bride who didn't pry was worth her weight in railroad stock. His younger brother Michael had laughed when James announced his mail-order bride plan. "You're importing a woman like she's cattle. I'm making a business arrangement. She gets security, I get respectability. And love. Love is for people who can afford to be weak." Michael had left for his mysterious business in New York the next day, something about securing investors for their eastern expansion. James hadn't asked for details. Michael handled the messy necessities of empire building: the bribes, the threats, the occasional violence that greased the wheels of progress. James preferred to keep his hands clean, or at least maintain plausible deniability. Now Catherine Worthington was arriving on the evening train from Chicago, and James felt an unfamiliar nervousness. He'd negotiated with presidents and faced down Union strikers, but the idea of meeting his purchased bride made his collar feel too tight. The train pulled into his private station with a shriek of brakes and steam. James watched from the platform as passengers disembarked: ranchers, businessmen, the usual traffic of the territory. Then he saw her. Catherine Worthington stumbled from the train like a wounded bird, her expensive dress torn at the hem, her blonde hair escaping from what had probably been an elegant chignon. She carried a single bag clutched against her chest like armor, but it was her eyes that stopped James cold, wide, terrified, constantly scanning for threats. "Miss Worthington." She spun toward him, nearly dropping her bag. "Mr. Blackwood." "Yes, are you all right?" "Fine, I'm fine, just—" The journey was difficult. But she wasn't fine. James could see dried blood on her sleeve, carefully hidden by how she held her arm. Her shoes were wrong, expensive but mismatched, as if grabbed in haste. And when a train whistle blew in the distance, she flinched like it was a gunshot. "Let's get you to the ranch," James said, taking her bag. It was surprisingly heavy, and something inside clinked like metal on metal. "Is it far? Is it isolated?" "Very isolated. That's a problem." "No, that's perfect." The ride to the Blackwood Ranch took 2 hours through progressively wilder country. Catherine sat rigid beside him, her hand never far from her bag. James tried conversation, but she answered in monosyllables, her attention focused on the road behind them. "Are you expecting someone?" he finally asked. "No, why would I be?" "You keep looking back." "Just admiring the scenery." "It's dark." "The stars, then." James let it drop, but his instincts, honed by years of reading dangerous men, screamed that Catherine Worthington was running from something that might follow her to his door. The ranch house appeared like a fortress against the night, all stone and timber, built to withstand Montana winters and human hostility equally. Catherine relaxed slightly when she saw it. "It's like a castle." "It needs to be. The railroad business makes enemies." "What kind of enemies?" "The kind who prefer bullets to lawsuits." She shuddered, and James wondered what had put that fear in her eyes. Inside, his housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, had prepared the guest suite. Catherine collapsed into a chair like her strings had been cut. "When is the wedding?" she asked. "I thought we'd take a few days." "Tomorrow, please. The sooner I'm Mrs. Blackwood, the sooner I'm safe." Safe from what? Catherine looked at him, and James saw her calculating what to reveal. "My former fiancé, in New York. He's possessive, violent. He threatened to kill me if I left. So I ran. The marriage will give me legal protection, a new name. He won't find Catherine Blackwood in Montana." It was a lie, but not entirely. James recognized the shape of truth beneath the deception. "This fiancé have a name. Does it matter I'm here now? That life is dead to me. And if he follows you, then I'll deal with the consequences. But please, the wedding tomorrow." James studied her. This beautiful, terrified woman who'd appeared like a mystery on his doorstep. Every instinct said to send her away, that she brought danger. But something else, something he hadn't felt in years, made him nod. "Tomorrow, then. I'll have the judge come at noon." Relief flooded her face. "Thank you. You don't know what this means." That night, James couldn't sleep. He stood on his balcony watching the darkness when he saw Catherine in the garden below. She was burying something, or cloth it looked like, dark cloth stained with something darker. When she finished, she stood over the small grave and whispered words he couldn't hear. In the morning, James had his security chief, Frank Morrison, run a check on Catherine Worthington of New York. The results were troubling. She existed: society pages, charity events, engagement announcement to one Harrison Walsh III. But everything stopped 5 days ago. The same day, James noted with growing concern that Senator Marcus Webb had been found dead in a Manhattan penthouse, shot 3 times in the chest. The killer was still at large. The same day, Michael had been in New York. The wedding was hastily arranged for noon, but at 11:30, James confronted Catherine in the library. "Senator Webb," she went white. "I don't know what you mean. He was killed 5 days ago. You left New York 5 days ago." "Coincidence." "I don't believe in coincidence. Neither do the authorities, who are looking for a blonde woman seen leaving his building." Catherine sank into a chair, her composure finally cracking. "I can't. If I tell you, you'll send me away." "Try me." She looked at him with those haunted eyes. "I was at a party. Harrison's party. My fiancé. Senator Webb was there along with other powerful men. I went to the powder room but got lost, ended up in Harrison's study. The door was cracked. I heard arguing. Webb and Harrison. Webb and another man, younger, cold voice. They were arguing about railroad contracts, government bribes. Webb said he was going to expose everything. The other man said that would be unfortunate. Then, 3 shots. Quick, professional. James's blood chilled. Michael was an expert marksman, had been since their father taught them to shoot. "Did you see the killer through the crack in the door? Dark hair, expensive suit, a scar on his left hand." Michael had a scar on his left hand from a childhood accident with a barbed wire. "He saw me. Our eyes met through that crack. He smiled and raised the gun. I ran. Heard the shot hit the door frame behind me. I kept running, grabbed whatever I could from my apartment, and got on the first train west." "And the blood on your dress." "Harrison tried to stop me from leaving. I hit him with a bookend. I don't know if he's alive or dead." James paced to the window. Outside, guests were arriving for the wedding. His brother Michael's car was pulling up the drive. Catherine, the killer. Describe him exactly. 6 feet, athletic build, dark hair with some premature gray, blue eyes very cold. The scar runs from his thumb to his wrist. He wore a gold signet ring with a railroad spike design. James's family ring, the one their father had given Michael. "Oh God," James breathed. "You know him." "He's my brother. He's here for the wedding." Catherine shot to her feet. "I have to run." "No," James grabbed her arm. "Running makes you pray. We face this together. He'll kill us both." "Not if I kill him first." "You'd kill your own brother. If he's what you say, he's already dead to me." They didn't have time to plan further. Mrs. Chen knocked, announcing that the judge and guests were assembled. James armed himself with a pistol beneath his jacket. Catherine did the same with a small derringer she'd been carrying in her bag. "Where did a society woman learn to use that?" "Harrison taught me. Ironic, isn't it?" They walked to the parlor where 30 guests waited, including Michael, who stood as James's best man. When he saw Catherine, his eyes widened for just a moment before his politician's smile slid into place. Brother, your bride is even lovelier than described. Michael, this is Catherine. Michael took her hand, and James saw her fight not to recoil. Enchanted, though you look familiar. Have we met? I don't believe so, Catherine managed. Strange. I could swear I've seen you recently. In New York, perhaps. I haven't been to New York in years. She lied smoothly. My mistake then. The ceremony began, Judge Patterson reading the vows with ponderous authority. James kept one hand near his gun, watching Michael, who watched Catherine with the focus of a predator recognizing prey. If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. Silence stretched taut as wire. Actually, Michael said, I have a concern. Everyone turned to him. James stepped partially in front of Catherine. What concern, brother? I believe the bride is wanted for questioning in a murder case. Senator Webb, terrible business. Gasps rippled through the guests. That's a serious accusation, James said coldly. I have a telegram from the New York police. A woman matching Mrs. Worthington's description was seen fleeing Webb's building. Many women match many descriptions. True, but how many are also wanted for the attempted murder of Harrison Walsh? He's in critical condition, by the way, Catherine. Head trauma from a crystal bookend. Catherine lifted her chin. Self-defense. He tried to stop me from leaving after I witnessed Senator Webb's murder. The room erupted in shocked whispers. Witnessed? Michael's voice was silk over steel. How traumatic. Did you see the killer? Very clearly. And they stared at each other, predator and witness, while the wedding guests looked on in confusion. Perhaps we should continue this discussion privately, James suggested. I think that's wise, Michael agreed. Judge guests, if you'll excuse us. The three of them moved to James's study. The moment the door closed, Michael drew a gun. You should have kept running, Miss Worthington. James's gun was already out, pointed at his brother. Put it down, Michael. Taking her side over mine, your own blood. You murdered a senator. I murdered a blackmailer who was going to destroy our railroad empire. Webb had documents, James, proof of every bribe, every forced land sale, every accident that removed obstacles from our path. So you killed him. For us, for the family, for the empire we built. I built the empire. You just cleared the path with blood. Don't be naive, James. You think the Blackwood fortune was built on clean hands? Every spike in our rails was driven through someone's dreams. Catherine spoke up. He's right about one thing. Webb had documents. I took them when I ran. Both brothers turned to her. They're in a safety deposit box in Chicago. If I don't check in every week, they get sent to the newspapers. Michael smiled coldly. Clever, but I only need to keep you alive for a week to find that box. You'll never find it. I found you, didn't I? Though I admit I didn't expect you to be marrying my brother. That's almost poetic. James stepped between them. You're not touching her. She's a witness to a necessary killing. She's my wife, or will be once we finish the ceremony. You'd choose her over me, over family. You chose murder over family the moment you pulled that trigger. Michael's face contorted with rage. Everything I've done has been for this family, for you. You think senators and congressmen just hand over billion-dollar contracts? You think competitors just step aside? I'm the reason Blackwood Rails owns half of Montana. And I never asked you to kill for it. No, you just enjoyed the profits while keeping your hands clean. That's always been your way, hasn't it? Let little brother do the dirty work while you play the respectable businessman. The standoff stretched taut, two brothers with guns drawn, Catherine between them like a beautiful catalyst for fratricide. There's a solution here, Catherine said suddenly. One that keeps everyone alive and the empire intact. I'm listening, Michael said, though his gun never wavered. Webb is dead. Nothing changes that. Harrison will live but won't testify. He's implicated in too many schemes. The documents I have incriminate many people, but not necessarily the Blackwoods. Go on. We complete the wedding. I become Mrs. James Blackwood, protected by marriage and the family name. The documents remain hidden but unused. You, Michael, disappear. Leave the country. Tonight. Exile, Michael laughed bitterly, for protecting my family's interests. For murder, James corrected. It's exile or I turn you in myself. You wouldn't. Try me. The brothers stared at each other, a lifetime of shared history weighing against the present betrayal. And if I refuse, Michael asked. Then I pull this trigger, Catherine said, her derringer now pressed against Michael's ribs. She'd moved while they were focused on each other, showing the skills that had kept her alive this long. I've already killed one man this week. A second won't trouble my conscience. You didn't kill Harrison. No, but you don't know that for certain, do you? Michael looked from Catherine to James, seeing determination in both faces. You're perfect for each other, he said finally. Both willing to betray family for principle. You betrayed family when you made us accomplices to murder, James replied. Michael slowly lowered his gun. Fine, exile, but I want my share of the empire in cash. 10 million, that's all. That's robbery. That's mercy, take it or leave it. Michael holstered his weapon. I'll need time to arrange things. You have until midnight. Frank Morrison will escort you to the train with the money. 15 years building this empire together, and this is how it ends. It ends with you alive and rich. That's more than Senator Webb got. Michael turned to leave, then paused. She'll destroy you, James. Women like her, they're survivors. They'll sacrifice anyone to stay alive. That's why she's perfect for this family, James replied. After Michael left, James and Catherine stood in silence. The weight of what had just happened, what had almost happened, pressed down on them. We should tell the guests something, Catherine finally said. Tell them Michael was called away on urgent business. We'll complete the ceremony. You still want to marry me after all this? More than ever, you stood up to my brother. You protected yourself and potentially saved my empire. You're exactly the kind of woman I need. A killer, a survivor. They returned to the parlor where confused guests waited. James explained Michael's sudden departure on railroad business, and the ceremony resumed. When Judge pronounced them husband and wife, James kissed Catherine with a passion that surprised them both. It tasted like danger and salvation mixed together. The reception was subdued guests sensing undercurrent as they couldn't quite identify. But as evening fell and the last guest departed, James and Catherine stood alone in their fortress of a home. What now, she asked. Now we build something better, without Michael's methods. And the government contract will probably go to another company. Webb was our inside supporter. Maybe not. Catherine pulled out a key. The safety deposit box in Chicago. Webb's documents include correspondence with other senators. Some might be grateful to have that information. Managed. James stared at his new wife. You're suggesting we blackmail the government. I'm suggesting we use leverage to ensure fair treatment. Your brother killed to get that contract. The least we can do is make his crime worth something. That's cold. That's business. You taught me that. I haven't taught you anything yet. Then start. Over the following months, they worked as partners. Catherine proved brilliant at navigating political waters using Webb's documents strategically to secure not just the Pacific Northern contract, but several others. James focused on the actual railroad building, creating jobs and prosperity across the territory. Michael had fled to Argentina, sending occasional letters that James burned unread. The official story was that he'd taken an opportunity overseas. Only James, Catherine, and Frank Morrison knew the truth. One night, 6 months into their marriage, Catherine found James in his study staring at an old photograph of him and Michael as boys. Do you miss him? I miss who he was, not who he became. The violence was always in him, James. You just chose not to see it. Maybe, or maybe I saw it and used it, which is worse. Catherine sat in his lap, something she'd started doing recently as their business arrangement evolved into real affection. We're all capable of violence when cornered. Michael just never learned when to stop. Could you have really shot him? To protect you, yes. To protect yourself on that too. Does that frighten you? It should, but instead it makes me feel safe. Because you're as dark as I am inside. Because we match. Two people willing to do terrible things for survival, but smart enough to know when not to. James pulled her closer. When did this become real, us? The moment you chose me over your brother. No one's ever chosen me over blood before. And you chose to stay when you could have run. I was tired of running, tired of being afraid. With you, I'm Catherine Blackwood, Railroad Baroness. That woman doesn't run. What happened to Harrison really? He's alive, recovered and married to someone else now. Probably tells stories about his crazy ex-fiancée who tried to kill him and scare him. And the truth about that night, Catherine was quiet for a moment. Webb was selling government secrets to foreign railroads. Michael was right, he would have destroyed you. But that didn't give Michael the right to execute him. So you let my brother take the fall for a justified killing. I let a murderer face consequences. The fact that his victim might have deserved it doesn't change what Michael is. And what am I? A man trying to build something good on bloody foundations. That's every empire in history, James. The question is, what you build next. What they built was remarkable. The Blackwood Railroad became the first to offer fair wages to all workers regardless of race. Catherine established schools at every major depot. They adopted 3 orphans whose parents had died building their rails, raising them as heirs to an empire built on redemption rather than blood. Michael died in Argentina 10 years later. Bar fight gone wrong, or so the report said. James suspected otherwise but didn't investigate. Some truths were better left buried. Catherine never told him about the other document in that safety deposit box. Michael's signed confession that she'd obtained at gunpoint that night insurance against his return. She kept it all their lives a secret guardian against the violence that had brought them together. They lived 40 more years, built 3,000 more miles of track, and died within days of each other, as if either could bear to ride rails alone. Their eldest son, Thomas, found them in the observation car of James's private train, holding hands as they watched their last sunset over the Montana mountains. In her final letter left for her children, Catherine wrote, I came to your father running from blood and found a life worth standing still for. He chose me over his brother, chose love over blood, chose building over destroying. That's the real Blackwood legacy, not the rails that cross this nation, but the choice to lay down weapons and pick up tools to stop running and start building to turn a marriage of desperation into a love that lasted longer than the mountains that witnessed our strange beginning. The railroad empire eventually passed to other hands, but the story became legend. The society woman who witnessed a murder and the railroad baron who chose her over blood, the brother who paid for violence with exile, and the marriage that proves sometimes the best partnerships are forged in the furnace of survival. And sometimes late at night, travelers on the mountain route swear they can see 2 figures in the observation car of a phantom train still watching over the rails that love built on foundations of necessary sins and chosen redemption.